race number 3 then at Rockingham, and it will once again be Joe Stables and Lee Torrey who make up the front row of the grid, with Phil Cooper and Richard Stables row 2. Chris Breen, Adrian Reynard are next, then Joe Locke and Doug Carter, then Mark Boot and Julian Caldwell, Ashley Hicklin and Robert Rees, and the rest filing through as well. So can Joe Stables make it 3 from 3 here at Rockingham? Let's find out. He has to do it from pole position this time, and that's the outside through turn number 1, so he will not lead into turn 1. It will be Lee Torrey for the 3rd time this weekend who will have the lead down towards the Dean Hairpin for the first time. But look who's come through into 2nd place. Adrian Reynard up the inside in the Gulf coloured car was briefly 2nd. He's now 3rd, and Joe Stable goes round the outside of everybody to reclaim the race lead. So as you were then, Joe Stables back in front of the field, but he did not have that easy. So Stables leads, Torrey 2nd, Reynard 3rd and Locke in 4th. So Phil Cooper is the big loser then, from 3rd on the grid down to 5th. But he was trying to do something about that, I think, as they turned into Chapman for the first time. At the front of the field though, it's the 2 black cars, as it has been, or as it was in race 1 at least, with Joe Stables ahead of Lee Torrey. They're doing battle for the race lead, but Lee Torrey's on the grass coming out of Kirby, and that will not help his speed up the hill. And so that will just further cement Joe Stables' position at the front of the field, you'd imagine. Move being made here further back up the inside line, but the leaders turn their way through Gracelands. Reynolds still 3rd. Cooper is now back up into 4th, ahead of Locke. Oh no! Back onto the grass is Julian Caldwell. That's the corner where he went off on the first lap in race 1 as well. This time, thankfully, he does not make the gravel, so no need for a safety car or a red flag. He should be able to rejoin from the back of the field. Back on board with Richard Stables. Now, Richard started 4th, and for some reason has found himself way down the order. So the man who arrived into this race 2nd place in the Class A Championship standings, with some real work to do in the early stages. Meanwhile, one of the other PR6s, but the Class B example of Phil Cooper there, looking to the inside of Adrian Reynard, but can't quite make that move stick through turn 1. Adrian's car with a little bit more horsepower, but then not quite as good through the corners as we saw in race 2, where he was really struggling to keep the quicker cars behind. Cooper had a look up the inside. The other thing we saw in race 2, though, was that Adrian is not afraid. He sticks resolutely to his line. Whether or not there's a car alongside him or not, Adrian sticks to the racing line. Now that makes him predictable in that they know what he's going to do, but very difficult to pass. Richard Stables isn't having much difficulty passing people though. He's carving his way through the field like the proverbial hot knife through butter. But this fight for 3rd place is raging on, and again Phil Cooper's up the inside, and this time surely Reynard can't close the door. Well, he tried to, and in fact he did, and again Cooper finds himself on the curb and losing traction as a result. So Adrian Reynard, proving to be harder to pass than a kidney stone, is not going to give this 3rd place up without one hell of a fight. So down into Tarzan they go once again, with Reynard still in that 3rd position. Richard Stables is now the inside though of Mark Boot. So 2 PR6s together here, and it will be Boot who holds on, but Stables looks to the inside into Brook, and I think we'll make it stick there. 3rd place battle comes back onto the banking again, and Phil Cooper once again with that traditional tight line that he always seems to take to try and maximise the power down the pit straight. Get on the loud pedal as early as possible and in as straight a line as possible, because if you're accelerating with the front wheels turning from one side to the other, if you have steering lock on, that creates drag and scrub against the tarmac, and so you don't accelerate out of the corner quite as well. Plenty of grip under braking there though for Richard Stables, who picks up another position. So Joe Locke is now the next man to come to pressure from the person who's finished 4th in both of the races so far this weekend. Richard Stables, here he is, turning through Chapman, and then once he gets past him, he'll be chasing after these 2. Now, really, Richard Stables has not been able to challenge Phil Cooper in the other PR6 all weekend long, but with Phil getting increasingly held up here by Adrian Reynard, that might change in this race. Joe Locke is out wide on the grass there, and so Richard Stables almost got up the inside in towards Gracelands. As they come out of the corner though, no change in the order, and indeed Mark Boot is still not far behind them, so in fact here is Stables trying to make the move, but I was about to say if he doesn't make this stick soon, then Boot will start coming back at him. Stables gets himself ahead though on the run down towards Brooklyn. It was the wrong side of the road. I wonder whether or not Joe Locke was able to come back at him. Out onto the pit straight we go once again, and it's still side by side here for 3rd place, but the momentum and the power there of Adrian Reynard's Gulf liveried car is just doing enough to hang on to the position. no doubt in my mind that over a lap Phil Cooper is quicker, but it's all well and good being quick through the corners. If you've got a car that's resolutely defending the position in front of you, you can't do anything with that performance, and then it just runs away from you in a straight line. Meanwhile, Joe Locke has now lost that position to Richard Stables, and so Stables is now 5th, chasing after the 3rd place battle in front, which is still in the same order. Mark Boot up the inside of Joe Locke there, and that was a really, really nice move by Mark Boot. Joe caught a bit off guard there, I think, having just lost the position to Richard Stables. I don't think he was quite expecting Mark Boot to find a way through as easily as he did, but there we go. Mark Boot, who finished behind Joe in both races so far today, this weekend I should say, but Joe Locke succumbs to the pressure in that particular instance, and so Boot finds a way through. I don't think he's quite going to have the pace to go after the race leader though, so or the leaders in front of him. Change there for 3rd place finally. I think that Phil Cooper's found a way through. Next time we check in with them, we'll double check that, but I think Phil Cooper did get past Adrian Reynard into 3rd position finally on the brakes there into Tarzan. It's a nice wide circuit here at Rockingham. You can see just how wide it is there, so when you get that chance to go up the inside, if it's not defended, and it can often look like there's acres of room on the inside line. Back out along the start-finish straight go the cars battling further back, but Phil Cooper has got past Adrian Reynard, and just in the nick of time as well, because look who's coming. Richard Stables is only a few car lengths back as they go down into the into the Dean Hairpin, and it is Phil Cooper just ahead. But the question now becomes, how quickly can Richard Stables find a way past Adrian Reynard? Because if he gets held up behind Adrian for any more than a lap or so, Cooper will be gone. And Cooper has been a bit quicker than Richard Stables all weekend long, so if Richard's going to have any chance of going after him, he really needs to get past this number 11 car as quickly as possible. They both run deep into Kirby. But Adrian, we know, was going to come back into the late apex there if he could, which he does. So Adrian though runs wide again though at Gracelands, and Stables will be seeing all of this and realising that it's holding him up, because Adrian's not going as quickly as Richard is capable of going. But he'll have raced Adrian previously, and he'll have seen the race that Adrian's raced thus far this weekend. He knows that even if he gets up the inside of him, if you don't have that move made by the time you get to the apex, Adrian's going to come to the apex instead, and he won't pay much attention to the fact that you're on the inside. Back across the start-finish line again. Now, what about the straight line speed comparison between the two? Looks fairly even. In fact, Stables with the slipstream closes in, gets to the inside, and, well, even Adrian Reynard couldn't cover that one off, could he? And so through does go Richard Stables, and it was a fairly easy move to make in the end. I don't think that Reynard's going to come back at him under braking, although he tries to. Almost runs into the back, in fact, of the PR6, but in the end they avoid contact, and Richard Stables should now, over the rest of this lap, be able to just build a small gap, you would expect. Through Yenwood into Chapman, and back in towards the left-right flick at Piff Path. Almost flat out through there, I'd imagine, in these cars. Certainly very quick. And down into one of the slower parts of the circuit, the double apex left-hander at Kirby, which is where Adrian Reynard really is struggling. You can see the car just doesn't seem to want to turn in. So back with Richard Stables now as he heads into Gracelands. In front of the field, Joe Stables, I can tell you, is running away with this, and in fact has just set a new lap, Lee Torrey, excuse me, in second place, has just set a new lap record. A 1:26.04 is a new lap record, and there is Lee, and you can see that he is very much going with Joe Stables here. So Lee Torrey up for the fight in this 3rd race of the weekend, and a new lap record to boot as well. So into Dean they go for another time, about halfway through this race now, and Lee Torrey is with Stables. In fact, he's having a little look at the inside there. Stables has to get a move on here. Joe's lap time's still quick. He's done a fastest lap of a mid 1:26, so he's not lapping much slower than Lee Torrey. In fact, he's not lapping much slower than lap record pace, therefore. He's just not quite as quick, it would seem, as the man who is still looking for his first win of the season. Lee has not been off the podium all year, just hasn't yet been able to get to the top step. Here is David Palmer in the Spire, dicing away with Charles Adrian a bit further down the order. And the Spire GT3 lacking a little bit of pace this weekend, maybe against the slightly quicker Radicals, but we know that Spires can be quick from the RGB Championship, also organised by the 750 Motor Club. And we see Spires very regularly fighting for race victories in that category. But David, I think, is going to get through here ahead of Adrian down into the Dean hairpin. Indeed he does. Lead us, though, back towards the Brook chicane. And, well, as long as there are no mistakes from Joe Stables, I don't think Lee Torrey is sufficiently quick enough to actually make a move at this stage of the race. But as long as he can just stay with him, he could maybe force a mistake out of the double race winner so far this weekend, especially when we're getting towards the traffic as well, which we know is coming. They will catch the back of the field before the checkered flag flies. They have done in the previous 2 races at least. That's a golden opportunity for the man in second place to possibly just start applying the pressure that little bit harder and maybe force a mistake out of the race leader. Back down towards Yentwood. Car number 98, Joe Stables, with the race lead, but he's having to fight for this one arguably a bit harder than he has done either of the previous races this weekend, despite the fact that this is the only one of the races that he's led pretty much from lights to flag. Lee Torrey, of course, beat him into turn 1, but then by the time they came out of the Dean hairpin, Joe was back in front. So in theory, he's had this one a bit easier, but actually, this is the quickest that Lee Torrey has been all weekend, and it's the closest that anyone's really been to Joe's pace all weekend. So Joe Stables not able to just stroke this one home. He's going to have to keep the pace up all the way through. Back down towards the Brook chicane, and Lee Torrey again, you can see Joe is just keeping him at arm's length. He's not quite close enough to really start applying the pressure to have a dive up the inside or to force Joe to start defending. And the instant that you start defending around here, then you may as well just wave goodbye to your lead, because it's so difficult to defend. It's such a wide circuit, and each corner leads directly into another, and then another, and then another. And so if you defend into one corner, it kills your speed through the next 3 or 4 corners, and that makes it very, very hard to defend a position effectively here. That, though, is exactly what Robert Rees is trying to do here, to keep Doug Carter at bay. And as they turn through the Brook chicane, sorry, I beg your pardon, that's actually Ashley Hicklin, I beg your pardon, in 16 ahead of Doug Carter, and then 15 Robert Rees is the next car behind them. So it is Hicklin who is holding on, and Ashley Hicklin running in Class A, but he started the season in Class B, so he's been moved over into Class A. Norris Cross on that car as well, of course. But he's defending from Doug Carter, who's one of the most experienced drivers out there on the circuit in car number 50. So this is a real battle of youth versus experience. It's youth that's winning out at the moment, but you sense that Doug Carter may not be that far away from making a move here. Through Piff, Paff and Kirby, they're about to go. Not really possible to make a move down at this part of the circuit. We get a good exit from here, and you could attack in towards Gracelands. Certainly into Tarzan, the next right-hand hairpin, you can make a move. Over the dotted white lines there that denote the link from the Super Sports Car Long circuit that we're running on this weekend. And indeed, Carter does get a good run through Gracelands, but that puts him on the wrong side of the road into Tarzan. So the fact that each corner leads directly into another can be frustrating when you're defending. It can be equally frustrating when you're trying to make the move stick. And again, you see Carter with a better exit from the corner, draws alongside, but it's the wrong side of the road. It's the outside into the Brook chicane. To try and carry as much momentum, though, out of this sequence of corners and up onto the pit straight, which he does. Gets his nose alongside very nearly. Oh, he's in the slipstream, is he? No, Carter up the inside. I don't think that Ashley Hicklin can defend the position, and Carter is going to go through. So Doug Carter picks up a place and works his way through into what will be just about 11th place, I think, that they're fighting over. Hicklin, though, comes back at him, and then Carter runs a bit wide, and so Hicklin might actually get the place back. Yes, he does. Oh, so all of that hard work from Doug Carter, and then he makes a mistake down at the Dean hairpin, and Ashley Hicklin goes straight back through. So Hicklin gets himself back to the head of this train. In fact, it's 9th place they're fighting over, not 11th. So 9th, 10th and 11th place cars here. And Ashley Hicklin very often in racing, when one driver finds a way through past another, then the car that just lost a position tends to sort of lose a bit of pace, lose a bit of focus, but not Ashley Hicklin. He was straight back up the inside and got the place back immediately. So through the left-hander at Gracelands they go, and fast running out of time now. In fact, I believe we might be about to go on to the final lap, so time running out for everybody to try and make their moves. Doug Carter has it all to do again now. There's the race leader, Joe Stables. Now, where is Lee Torrey? Lee Torrey has suddenly disappeared, and I don't know quite where he's gone. No, he's still there. He's in second place, but he's about 11 seconds back. So Lee Torrey, who had been all over the rear end of Joe Stables' Radical SR3, has all of a sudden had a moment somewhere, presumably, and dropped an awfully long way back. So that means that Joe Stables is actually going to have it a little bit more easy than we expected. Back up through Yentwood and Chapman he goes, and it doesn't look as though he is going to be beaten in this one. He uses all of the curb there through Piff Paff, down into Kirby, and back up the hill towards Gracelands, where he's not going to be headed. Look at that, there's no sight of Torrey behind. I can tell you he did cross the line about 11 seconds back that time around, so he's going to have to settle for second. He's still about 12 seconds ahead of Philip Cooper though, so shouldn't lose that second place. But it could have been so much more for Lee Torrey. Stables though comes out of the right-hander at Tarzan, and it is going to be win number 3 of the day and win number 4 of the season for Joe Stables. Turns his way out of the final corner, up towards the start-finish line, and the checkered flag will be waiting. There it is, Joe Stables wins round number 5 of the AIM Technologies Bikesports Championship. Second goes to Lee Torrey, third Phil Cooper, and fourth Richard Stables, with Joe Locke 5th. Then it's Adrian Reynard, Chris Preen, Mark Boot, Ashley Hicklin, and Robert Rees rounds out the top 10. Doug Carter dropped to 11th by the end, ahead of Adrian Williams and Julian Caldwell. David Palmer and Charles Adrian and Mark Grayson were a lap down, whilst Lee Torrey sets the fastest lap, and it was a new lap record.
Joe, clean sweep. What a weekend it's been. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Firstly, I want to say thanks to my dad. Couldn't have done it without him. Helped me prep the car. Helped me for letting it happen, really. It's been a great weekend.
Yeah. You've run away with it pretty much. Well, I wouldn't say run away with it. It's been a tight battle with the second place. You're not in a tuned car, which makes it even more special.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part about it. That's what we were coming to do, to win it in a standard car.
Yeah, and you get in there, as this weekend proves. So well done. Go and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Lee, what a weekend it's been. 3 podiums. Congratulations. You've got to be happy.
Yeah, overall happy. I think in the third race, I was giving it everything, and I pulled Joe in, got to him, and just got a little bit too close. Bit of aero, lost a bit of air on the car, and round we went. So but still able to recover, and still was in second. So yeah, I'd be happy.